Sup gamers, welcome back to some more Dead by Daylight content, where today I wanted to talk about the upcoming PTB on the all-kill comeback, specifically the highlight of it all, the feature of it being the rework to the Trickster power. Now, I am one of Trickster's biggest haters, probably, in terms of overall gameplay design and overall style, because I feel like his power has never really justified its existence and feels like it gets in the way of its own self more often than actually being a useful piece of utility. And it's hard for me to also, of course, not make the comparison to Deathslinger all the time. I'm always thinking, oh, I could have hit that if I was playing Deathslinger or something along those lines. But even when I'm playing a killer like Trapper or Skull Merchant or the Pig, in these scenarios, I think, oh, I can try and corral these people towards my traps, or I can use the stealth or the haste or the dash on Pig's power, for example, to try and make up for the lack of my overall chase power. And there is some kind of gradual payoff for that. With Trickster, I've never really liked Trickster overall because it feels like I have to pull up my power, and then throw one knife and then put the, excuse me, a little hiccup, and then put the power down and then keep chasing the person and then try to follow up with another knife, and then I have to wait until I can get another knife out, and then I have to wait until I get another knife out. It feels very delayed overall in terms of being able to get any sort of power. But previously, one of the benefits of it was that you could get main event off of a few knives and be able to quickly finish your downs after you had gotten that initial few hits. And that doesn't really happen anymore. The new gameplay update, the rework overall, now I'm going to explain what it does. Basically, what happens now is that when you hit knives and you basic attack a survivor, you break a pallet, you put a survivor on a hook, you kick a generator, any of those sort of actions, you get what's called style points. And as you gain style points, you gain style rank, starting at E rank, and it goes all the way up to S rank. Each of these ranks gradually gives you some locker reload speed and a bit of like a throw speed buff, I believe, as well in between all of that. But the locker reload speed is the one that I noticed the most when I had high ranks. And when you eventually reach S rank, you gain killer instinct on every survivor that's inside of your terror radius, and you also gain the ability to use the main event, which means that prior to actually getting S rank, which requires you to do all of these unique actions where you can't do the same one consecutively, otherwise you don't get style point rank ups. Like if you basic attack two survivors in consecutive fashion, you don't gain style points and rank up. You only refresh the duration of the rank because your rank gradually decays into the one lower, and so you will sort of like fall off over time. And because you're not actually really that much of a threat before S rank, you don't get main event, and then you don't get that ability to have that sort of lethality that you did before. And what this means to me is that this has not changed enough about the Trickster to make me enjoy him more. I was kind of hoping that the rework would be more along the lines of Freddy's rework or Myers' rework, in that it would kind of update and modernize and really change the playstyle a lot, but still feel, or at least try to emulate something similar while changing a lot. But instead, a lot of this rework is more of like a visual gameplay update, as we would call in League of Legends. I don't know if there's anyone out there that plays League, but this feels more like Mundo, when Mundo got his gameplay update and everything, instead of like a Volibear kind of update where mechanically Mundo is almost exactly the same as he was prior to his rework. Volibear completely different. Or if you're a Rainbow Six player, it feels less like Tachanka going from having the mountable turret to now having the fire grenade gadget, to Maverick just doesn't have to reload canisters anymore. It feels like a cosmetic change in a lot of ways, and that sucks, because I think that there's a lot of effort that's been put into this and a lot of thought that's been put into wanting to make Trickster have this almost showstopper effect. Like he is putting on a performance and doing all these different things and chaining them all together, but you don't get any benefits for actually chaining it all of it together, because the payoff takes so long to get to, is relatively minuscule, and you have so many other compensations in between that make it not worth the payoff initially because of how long it just takes to get there. It feels like it's structurally identical, and it feels like it's just fun flashing lights and jangling keys, which I hate to call it that overall, but I was truly hoping that the word rework would be used in the sense of we're updating it to be a modern thing, and instead it just feels like we added this kind of cool cosmetic system, made it way harder to get to the strongest part of Trickster's kit, and effectively made him a lot weaker as a sort of compensation thing. And so I think it needs adjustments. And I think like it's the thing that really gets me is that the snowball, the getting S rank, you know, getting to your big power spike reminds me a lot of Oni, right? Where you collect orbs, you injure a lot of people, and then you go around and then you smash them while you're in Blood Fury, and you go around the map downing people consecutively, and you have this sort of snowball payoff in that killer's kit. Or you can even do it with Huntress, actually. Like, Huntress can snowball really quickly if she has a bunch of grouped up survivors by being able to tap a bunch of people with hatchets and very quickly turn a game on its head. And that sort of snowball doesn't require a lot of precision. It requires some mistakes from the survivor, but the precision that's required is not that high. And being able to actually have that payoff and being able to play into that is a lot more in line of what I think a snowball killer should be, and that's what I think that Trickster is designed to be, because you're trying to build up to this big status of S rank to then use main event to then snowball an advantage and snowball into this greater version of your power. And the greater version of your power is just you can activate main event at any time within the next 60 seconds, but then the throw rate's a lot slower than it was before, and your movement speed's a lot lower than it was before. And again, like, in order to get to that power point, it still feels exactly like Trickster did before, except now he's 4.4 as well, which I think is fine. I think Trickster being 4.4 is fine if he has something to compensate for it, and he doesn't have enough in the kit otherwise to compensate for it. So I think that it's a good idea. I really do think the system is cool. I don't like Trickster. I don't think this update will make me like him anymore. But when I was playing him in the PTB, I could feel like, oh, these things just feel a little bit too slow. And if there were some things that had adjustments, some number changes made to them overall, then I think he would actually be in a pretty decent spot. And there's some suggestions by Revium, the 11,000 hour DBD player Trickster main themselves on Twitter, who's like, hey, we were talking, and here's like Wayshek also sharing his thoughts and everything. You know, Wayshek, Revium, both of them shared their thoughts individually on Twitter on some changes that they can make to the Trickster rework. And I really do think that the Trickster rework is cool looking. I think it's an interesting idea. It's not for me. I gotta accept that Trickster's just never really going to be a killer for me specifically, but I can see that he needs changes, and I hope that that's something that kind of comes to light when it hits the live servers. Next up, we also have a new survivor, a handful of decent perks overall. I gotta kind of like double check the names on them, but they all seem good. The one that lets you have Windows opportunity while you're in chase and also lets you drop pallets faster is kind of nuts. I think it's really good. There's also just better bite the bullet in here as well, where you gain elusive while healing another survivor, which means that you can't have your ore red, which actually directly counters a nurse's calling, which seems a little bit funny to have like a counter to a very specific perk. And this also makes it so that you can heal under hook with less punishment now, because if you were playing into Floods of Rage, or somebody had nowhere to hide and you were near a generator that was kicked, or anything along those lines, you're not going to get seen now. So it's a significantly better version of Bite the Bullet overall. And so it does kind of feel like a good perk, especially considering that healing perks are really, really strong right now. I feel like this one's going to be the most problematic. I don't know if you guys remember when there was the update to Off the Record that gave it elusive and everything, and people were running that a lot as well. So, elusive is a very difficult status effect that they're trying to introduce now. It's a difficult one to balance things around, and I think adding it to a healing action seems a little bit strong, but I'm thinking that like maybe a nerf would be once you pass 50% healing progress, you and the survivor that you were healing gain elusive. So that way, if someone brings Resurgence, then this pairs really well with it. Or if you have a fast healing build, then eventually you become elusive and your aura is hidden. But I don't think you should give elusive right away. But that's just kind of my thoughts. I I don't know what I'm talking about in terms of balance, just kind of off the top of my head here. Some other perks that were notable changes in this patch specifically where that pop goes. The weasel has now been updated, and people were like, oh, but it's 5% weaker, but it's 15% on top of the 5% kick. And the thing is that Pop Goes the Weasel previously would remove 20% of current progress, which means that you were never actually getting 20% out of the kick. You were only ever getting up to 19.9% because 20% would only take it out if it was 100% gen, but of course 100% gen is already getting finished really quickly. And so being able to kick any gen no matter what progress it's at, and you're guaranteed to get a 15% plus that 5% from the base kick generator kick, is significantly stronger. It's way better than it was before, because now you're guaranteed to always get that 15% instead of being like, I might get 10% if the gen's at 50%, or I might get 15% if the gen's at 75%. It's just pound for pound more consistent overall, especially on generators that don't have nearly as high completion, and it allows you to maintain a mid game a lot better, especially with killers that like to run this perk, which I did run it on Trickster because of the changes and everything. So we'll just, we'll have to see how that all goes. Fast Track, though, and the Survivor perk that was changed, I think is a bit controversial on the same level as Made for This, previous to its nerf. When Made for This, you got hit, you gained 3% haste for the entire duration that you were injured. And in the same way that is punishing just regular gameplay for the killer, Fast Track feels like it's controversial on the same level, in the way that you don't really have to do something different in order to gain a fairly powerful effect. Like, gradually you build up to, just by your teammates, they'd all die and they all get hooked and stuff, and you're out there ratting on a generator. You run like Technician so that you aren't hurt on the generator quite as easily, and Fast Track can then make it so that you get a brand new part by not participating in the game, which is already kind of an issue. It's not really too big of an issue. It's already kind of an issue with Deja Vu, and it's already kind of an issue when you do see Stakeout and Hyperfocus pop up every once in a while. Now, I don't see Stakeout and Hyperfocus like every game. I don't see it very often, but when I do see it in my post-game lobbies, I'm like, wow, yeah, that makes sense why the generators went so quickly, is because this person was running Prove Thyself, Stakeout, Hyperfocus, Deja Vu, and I think you can actually take Deja Vu out of that and play Fast Track now if you're good at finding generators, because now you can just complete gens incredibly quickly. So it just feels like it's punishing for playing the regular flow of gameplay, and I'm not a very big fan of perk design that's like that. It reminds me a lot of MFT. Excuse me, it reminds me a lot of MFT from before, so not ideal, not my favorite. I do kind of hope that doesn't go to live. Fast Track by itself right now isn't the greatest perk, but I think that adding a BNP to a generator because your other survivors got hooked is just, it's just punishing more for the killer than it really needs to be. Now we have the new map, of course, the Trickster's Delusion. I mean, you'll see the background footage of me getting my ass kicked on this map because, again, I'm not great with Trickster. But this new map as well does feel really difficult for him. There are a couple of really good God loops and a couple of really good palettes. There's this one room towards the start of the video that you saw me playing on. You probably haven't heard me like kind of muttering to myself because I left my microphone on. But there was like a double pallet inside of the convenience store. And I don't know if that's like an intentional spawn, but both of the pallets spawn there. And as a 4.4 killer with no lethality like Huntress, like no lethality like Deathslinger, I just couldn't do anything about that double pallet, and I eventually had to leave because that's just not a great setup for me overall. And a lot of the map does kind of feel like that. It's a lot of outdoor areas that connect into narrow alleyways that have good God pallets, a lot of really good God windows. There's a couple of areas that feel like they should have a doorway, but they don't, and there's a really good window. A lot of it just feels really safe for survivors overall, and it made me think the visual overstimuli and the really safe loops and the frequency of the obstructions throughout the entire map made me think it felt like Toba Landing. It felt like I was playing on Toba Landing, but if it was set in Korea, and that is kind of nuts, actually. It's kind of insane that that's the setup that we have going here. So I kind of hope that some of the clutter is reduced in some ways, and that some of the loops, some of the buildings have like more openings overall, because I know that they're trying to make it topographically accurate. And I think it does look really cool. I think the art design is great. I had a friend of mine who's fluent in Korean tell me that some of the signs were a little bit goofy in the sense that they all read like, oh, you suck, oh, you're a loser, that kind of thing. All in Korean. That's what all the Korean signs say, apparently, or like, oh, you're trash. But the phrasing he said of these Korean signs is very formal. It's like a very formal term. It's not actually like colloquialism or slang. It's not like you're trash. It's you are trash, or you are not the greatest kind of thing. Like it's the phrasing, the wording of it is a little bit more archaic than would be spoken in modern times. So there is kind of that maybe to slightly criticize about it, but it's not a thing that a lot of people will notice anyway. But I think that the design is cool. I think the design is actually genuinely interesting. It just feels really cluttered and really visually overstimulating, a little bit noisy in some ways. It'll take some getting used to for sure, but I'm kind of okay with it. It's just that when you compare this to our last most recent map, which I believe was Ormond Lake Mine, you're like, oh yeah, Ormond Lake Mine, boom, you pick that up. It's like takes a little bit to get adjusted to, but you adjust to it and you're good. And this one's like, there's so much shit going on that I need to understand. And for some reason, Shack also just feels bigger. I don't know if it was because I'm not used to Trickster and I'm not used to Trickster 4.4 especially, but Shack just felt impossible to play on, and it just felt impossibly large comparatively, but that might also just be me being biased about it. And then there's some other like little minor updates in here on this update that were kind of cool, like the prestige updates where you get like a specialized portrait now if you are if you get prestige 25, 50, 75, 100. You know, it's something, right? It's like a little kind of chromatic effect with the entity's claws around the profile picture, and I'm just happy that there is anything for prestige 100 to begin with. That being said, I think something that I would like for Prestige 100 to have is like infinite add-ons, so that I don't have to keep spending blood points. Like I've clearly spent 100 million blood points to unlock everything for Deathslinger. I think it would probably be okay if I didn't spend more blood points on Deathslinger, so that I can just have all the add-ons and feel like I'm able to freely experiment with them, or maybe not even freely experiment with them and just never feel like I have to worry about, oh, I'm going to lose my only 4 good add-ons, because that's just a problem with Deathslinger right now. And speaking of, there's also no bug fixes announced in the PTB. Maybe there will be something on the live server. I do actually have a beta hub page where I was talking about the chain bug break, but it doesn't look like it's very high priority, so I don't expect that to be changing anytime soon, but I do hope it does. You know, I'm always optimistic, because it's just going to kill me if I try to be pessimistic all the time. There were also some perk updates. All the text was changed to be a lot simpler and more direct to read, and if you right-click on a perk with status effect names, you can then read what the status effect does. It is much better for new players, for returning players, or for players who have been playing the game for a while and just don't run some specific perks and they want to see what they do. It's so much cleaner now. There's some wording that's like a little bit strange here and there, like Pop Goes the Weasel's wording is definitely a weird one to me. But I am overall happy with how the changes went for a lot of renaming these perk descriptions and things. And I hope this is the standard that we have going forward. So it's a good update all around. I do think that this is a really good update all around. There are just some changes that I would like to see in PTB, in removing some of the god loops from the Trickster's Delusion map, because there's a lot of them, there's a lot of palettes, and in updating some of the stats from the Trickster, because he doesn't feel like a character. He's a character that clearly wants to snowball, but isn't given the opportunity to properly snowball when when he's actually playing the game. There's also some like new Trickster voice lines, which are great. And the biggest thing, I've left it for the end, I mean, biggest thing for me, but it's such a minor change anyway, but we can now change the aura colors of literally everything. You want to see hooks in a different color, you want to see generators, survivors, killers, everything in a different color than they were before, and you have the ability to change that now in the settings, which is a fantastic change. I've complained about everything being a red aura for so incredibly long, and I'm really happy about this change. It's probably like my is probably my favorite change out of the entire patch. I mean, the rest of it's cool, but this one is like, yes, I'm so glad they've finally added this. It's taken a while, and I know that some people will be like, oh, well, thank goodness all behaviors doing the bare minimum, but I don't know. Like, I think that at this point, there's just things that I'm happy to have in this game at this point, and I hope that this is like an indication of 2026 being a better year and for good things yet to come. And again, with that, possibly some Trickster buffs and things like that. Anyway, that's all I got for this little unscripted ramble. Thank you all so much for listening to my thoughts on this. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.